Let's do this. Okay. It's such an honor to be opening for the summit this year. And I got a lot to get through, so I'll be at about twice the speed just flying through stuff. So try to keep up. And I've been using ZBrush probably since before most of you were born, so I have to take you back a little bit. I got my first job in the effects industry at this place, which was awesome. And it was actually for Star Wars. So my first movie was on episode 1 that I got to work on. But basically building spaceships, robots, you know, the 7-year-old in me was very excited. And got to blow stuff up, got to cut up droids and things. And, you know, that was my first experience in the movie industry, which was awesome. But I couldn't help kind of be mesmerized by what was happening in the creature group. Problem is I sucked. So I was a hard surface guy, but wanted to get into the creature work. So the easiest way to get from one thing to the other was just to pick a movie that nobody wanted to work on. Which turned out to be the most fun ever, actually. I think it was my favorite film of my entire career, but it was awesome. But this is my little guy. That's my first creature model, done in NURBS. You guys don't know what that is, but I'm just letting you know. And this is how he looks in high res. But he was a lot of fun. I had a chance to do my first sort of facial library. You know, animators be kind. It's my first. But anyway, he goes through a range of his expressions and, you know, this sort of stuff. But then basically, this is how he looked in the movie. Little ear twitches and things, yeah. But the director basically said, look, make something cute and make it turn extremely nasty. I actually strained my platysma muscle doing that facial expression. But anyway, I had a chance to do a creature, but I wasn't in the creature group yet. So I wanted to be there more permanently, so I guess further study was required. So I went down to Monterey and did a 5-day workshop with now my mentor and good friend, Richard McDonald. And this is a great time lapse you guys should check out at some point. But it's just an average week for him. This is the studio working at actual speed. But essentially what I found out is my anatomy sucked. And I really, you know, these people really knew their stuff. So more study was needed, and that's when I set my assignment of my first anatomy sculpture. So you see more hair, less of this. But I want to reassure you guys, this is how the clay sculpt ended, but it honestly didn't look like this. It looked like stacked potatoes for a long while. I just kept correcting it and reworking it. But it gave me the 10,000 hours. Does that make sense? You guys have heard of that before, I'm sure. But then essentially, if it's going to take you 10,000 hours to do something, make sure it's something you enjoy. Yeah? And this is how it turned out. Painted, I guess. But the nice thing is, it got me enough street cred to get into the creature group. Boom. And episode 2. Now, this is how you used to sculpt creatures. You ready? The horror. So this is a Magi sculpt done by the ranch, and I just took the photographs and I'm putting nerves over the top. And just shoot me. Yeah. But that's how it turned out in the movie. But my big frustration was, this is one of the other creatures I got to sculpt. This was super high res back then. And you guys are like, oh, this is only 1 trillion polygons. This is bullshit, right? But this was considered super dense. But the problem is you know, it was up to the paint group to then put all the detail in. And as a modeler, that was so frustrating. You know, you're like, it's like it's half finished and you have to give it away. So if there was a tool that could do this. Well, then I met a couple of these sales guys when I went to my first SIGGRAPH. Sorry, for those of you who don't know, that's Jaime Lebel, the managing director of Pixelogic, and Ofer Alon, the writer of it, but I just thought they were booth guys, right? But at the time, I was at this SIGGRAPH, and I said to my CG supervisor, I said, I think ZBrush is going to change the 3D world like Photoshop changed the 2D world. It was that revolutionary for sure. And that's the first time I saw that logo. Yeah, okay. And there's the booth in typical 80s purple. Okay, but to get ILM to adopt this, I mean, we were still doing NURBS, and I was like, this is a cool tool. We finally needed an awesome special project to actually make this happen. So I was the model lead on the movie Pirates of the Caribbean 2, and the technical challenge was immense. I mean, just Davy Jones here, he had 150 different type of sea life on him. It just was not a NURB solution. So this is actually how we got ZBrush into ILM and changed their workflow. Problem is, this was my character. I was going to get to sculpt it. But something else cool happened, so it's not a bad story. Anyway, a surprise person came to ILM, who's a hero of mine, love his movies. Of course, this is director James Cameron. And he made a surprise visit, and the president of ILM just runs into my desk and said, James Cameron is here, do something. And he walks in with a whole entourage and, so, no pressure. But basically, I was kidnapped. I was taken off pirates, and I was put on a very cool film. But myself and 5 other artists got to hang out in James Cameron's house in Malibu to do pre-production on Avatar. The cool thing for me, I was the only modeler, and everyone else like Wayne Barlow, Jordu Shell, Neville Page, Yuri Bartoli, they were doing sketches, and I got to sculpt them, which was awesome. So this is what the Na'vi first looked like. That was the first sculpt. It's just done in a couple of hours. And then, still in ZBrush, I texted her, got to finish her off, and that was the first look she had. And then, of course, hundreds of amazing artists did an incredible job to make it look like it is in the final film. But if you told me before I came to America that I'd be working for George Lucas's company, I'd be in director James Cameron's house, and I was not going to be happy. Right? Yeah, you're taking crazy pills. What it meant is I guess I had a calling to do something else. So quitting your dream job, and also if I'd stayed on that movie, I would have been working on it from 2005 to 2010, and nothing else. Right? So I had a great lunch with James Cameron once in the house, and he said, yeah, this is a dream of mine. I wanted to make this movie for 10 years. And I'm like, you're right, that is a dream of yours. So I thought I'd better pursue some things myself. So that's when Anatomy Tools was born. So I thought I'd get married, I thought I'd buy a house, and then I'd quit ILM. It was a great plan, wasn't it? But I'm going to fly through these. These were just some of the things that I've sculpted during the last 10 years or so, and these are all now done in ZBrush. But I really want to get to the next thing that I'll be sharing with you, because quite a few have probably seen these things before. And then finally did the female just recently. But some cool things started to happen. The anatomy figure started to show up everywhere. It's my friend Guillermo in the Bleak House. Two figures, just saying. And I was a huge fan of the artist Brom, right? Yeah, an order came in and it said Gerald Brom, and I'm like, no, it's not. Yep. So anyway, he gave me a bunch of prints and I just gave him the anatomy figure. Awesome, right? But it started showing up everywhere. This is an Avengers. And so from here, without permission. Anyway, it's nice to be endorsed by Thor and the Hulk and everyone else. But then it led to doing workshops because people started to know who we were. Yeah. So, yeah, we've been to Blizzard, Epic, Valve, all over. It's been fantastic. This is a practical class at Pixar. And of course, here at the Gnomon School, fantastic. And then I also started dragging friends of mine from the effects world to teach classes with me. This is my friend Cawrse. And then even teaching surgeons now, heavens above. But here's the cool thing I want to share with you, which is my whole animal anatomy crew at the front here. We're doing animals. So I guess what I'm saying, we're encouraged to keep going, yeah? So just check out some of the work they've been doing, and then we'll talk about it. Do you guys have sound? These are all just work in progress, and I'll show you some finished ones in a minute. Mark Newman. You guys excited? All right. So I just want to take 2 seconds to introduce my awesome crew. Aren't they doing amazing work? Yeah? Can you guys all stand up? Come on. Yeah, that's enough. That's enough. All right, that's enough. Cool. So we want to make the world's best anatomy models. I mean, how many people are still looking at animal anatomy books from 80 years ago? What's our generation doing, you know? So we're going to crush it. Okay. So, you know, we have to make the basic models. These are some close-in of the work. And, you know, we're going to be starting posting a lot of this stuff on our site. But we still need to know how to best represent each animal, right? So we did some research. Some animals may be friendlier than we thought, and some others. That's an Australian joke in there, right? So, and then also to pick the best angle. All right, so let me share with some of you the more finished work. It's a beautiful horse sculpted by both Zach Berry and Vaughn, and textured and rendered by Vaughn. And then on the other side, we're doing deeper dissections, because we're obviously mentally not well. And here's a bit of a quick turntable in low res. But these are all going to be desktop models. Hope you guys are going to love them. And then just give you one more example before we move on. It's by Tan. That's a crocodile. You guys are good. And then, oh, this normally plays. There we go. Oh. So this is going to be suspended in acrylic like it's in water. Cool? So if you guys are interested, let me know, because we're working on about 20 plus animals, but I don't know which ones to build first. So let me know, all right? And we'll get it done. Okay. So I thought I'd just end the talk today with some generic anatomy tips, right? Because having taught all over the world, it's interesting to me, it doesn't matter what culture or age group, we seem to have the same struggle and the same journey, right? Same mistakes. So the reason I wanted to really try to master anatomy is because I also do a lot of fine art, and I have the joy of working with Cirque du Soleil. So when you see what they can do, you want to know the anatomy. This is my friend Mari. So for those of you in the workshop next week, you get to see her perform here, which is going to be awesome. So this is at our studio in Vegas. And that's from a week ago during that class. All right. So let's get some quick tips on dealing with working on anatomy in ZBrush. I mean, if you guys are interested. Yeah, all right, just checking. Just, guys are still awake. That's awesome. Okay, first thing is camera. This is the same model with different focal lengths in ZBrush. Right? So one thing, I mean, it's the power of the program. It doesn't have an OpenGL camera, so you can do, you know, your trillion polygons. But just be aware of it, particularly if you're going to leave ZBrush, which most of you will, and particularly if you're going to output. So I normally set my ZBrush camera pretty close to the average human eye. So if you want to set the angle of view to 28, that's a good angle to work at. And I also have tiny little pieces of geometry that keep things at world scale, like it's 6 foot, and the camera behaves very well then. That makes sense to you guys. Otherwise, you can get in trouble with the camera. The other thing to help your anatomy is how many people stop a little bit to do a portrait, right? You really focus on doing a portrait, you're trying it right. I'm trying to say do that with everything. Do the portrait of their anatomy, and your work will automatically improve. But one of the things we've got to realize is that we are terrible observers, just by default, and artists are even worse. So why is eyewitness testimony unreliable? It's because we're not really observing, we're taking a snapshot and just interpreting the hell out of it. Right? But we want to move from that, and what I'd recommend is to you guys to unplug for a while, right? Get off of the computer. I mean, not keep digital, but actually start doing things like this. Copy from life. So this is what I do in my studio. Got my little Wacom companion on a sculpting stand, and then you just go around the model and just sculpt from life, right? So you're practicing your digital skills, but you're learning how to not just trace 3D SK reference, right? You're actually learning, you're not just tracing. Does that make sense to you guys? It is so much fun, and you can, you know, undo. Okay, ZBrush Central I love. How amazing is the work on ZBrush Central? It's like, right? But there's also a lot of work of people getting better, and that you'll just see the same mistakes made by thousands of people, right? And let's just see if you make some of these, okay? Good. So what you've got to do first is Yeah, this is before a large mouse ran ILM. It was a large frog before. Right. But here's my favorite pet peeve. I'll just give you an example. Does everyone know what the sternocleidomastoid is, right? It's a beautiful muscle of the neck. So why do we keep connecting it to the wrong point? Sternum, clavicle, mastoid, sternocleidomastoid, but we keep connecting it to the clavicle. I'm just picking a hypothetical, right? This is a bronze sculpture I did in clay originally, and then I just want you to look at the neck. This is clearly going past my shoulder girdle. Everyone catching that? Yeah? You'd be surprised. Go back to ZBrush Central after this, okay? Okay, some cool things to avoid. There are no horizontals in human nature. 0. And this will help you avoid creating this guy. Right? So ZBrush is such an awesome sculpting medium, but you've got to keep things offset. They'll just naturally start to balance out. And what I mean by that is you end up with these sort of Popeye or Michelin Man arms, right? See what I mean by horizontals? The muscle bellies are in line with each other. Very common thing to do. So we want to remember those offsets, right, of how muscle bellies are higher and lower. Same with the legs. Yeah? There's no verticals either, which means that everything on your legs, everything else is offset. The angle of the knee is that, right? It's not straight up and down. Even the bones of your legs, even your ankle bones are not in line. So when I say there are no straight lines, got it? Wax on, wax off, right? Okay, good. All right. And then also, here's a fun thing about the anatomy. If you realize both of your limbs are mirrors of each other, master one, the other one becomes very easy. Guys, get what I'm trying to say? So this could be the bicep of the leg. This could be the tricep of the leg. 5 digits, extensors, flexors, right? So try to think of them as mirrors, right? We've got a silhouette here of the leg, and you see we've got the flip of the arm, you know, with the hand on a table. Eye anatomy. Oh, ZBrush Central. Okay. Don't make your computer models cross-eyed. You see this beautiful sculpt, beautifully rendered, and there's just something strange about it. Right? It's because we're usually looking 10 or 15 feet, which means you need a slight rotation in Y, right? So that unless they're reading a book or something, otherwise your CG characters are going to look cross-eyed, even if it's beautifully done, right? So slight offset. Okay, proportions. This is more common than you think. Head too small, neck too long, shoulders too wide, waist too small, arms too short, legs too long, right? They are common errors, particularly when people are starting in ZBrush, right, with their anatomy. So most people have learned 3 skeletal masses if they've done some type of training, right, these guys. But what I want to share with you is you must do 4. Everyone see the red things? Okay, so your shoulder girdle, all of your muscles above rib number 5, all of your muscles will be affected by the movement of these, or this 4th skeletal mass. All right, so perfect practice would be you getting that right. So how can we track all of these things in any position? Has anyone sort of used the kind of the Loomis 8 heads tall? Come on, it's fantastic, right? It's awesome if you want to sculpt this forever. By the way, I'm not doing another anatomy figure. You could take Angelina Jolie and she's going to look, well, not terrible, right? But, right? What I'm saying is that system breaks down as soon as you go into pose, doesn't it? Now I can't track my 8 heads. All right. So how can I track this in any position? Yeah, these guys know. By using the magic measurement. Okay, it first started with Leonardo da Vinci. 5 eyes wide, this one, right? You've seen that before? Okay. Now, he was a little obsessive because he measured the entire figure in eye widths. So let's not do that, okay? And then, anyone know who Robert Beverly Hale is? Amazing anatomist and artist. He then took that further and then I've taken it further again. So Da Vinci, Hale, myself, all the greats, right? So it's essentially using one measurement to plot the entire skeleton in any position. They're still not interested. Let me try that again. To recreate the figure in any position from one measurement. Tough crowd. Okay. Right? Yeah. yeah, I know, right? It's the only reason I brought you guys. All right. So it means that it's this measurement, right? Does anyone know that we track bony landmarks to build the figure off it, right? It's like a coat hanger. So if this measurement, we learn it's also this measurement, okay? Which means our cranium is quite square. But from there, I find the sternal notch. Great, I've got the start of my rib cage. From there, I've got the end of my sternum, which is halfway down my rib cage. Then to the corner of my ribs. Then to the as-is, or anterior superior iliac spine, the hip thing, right? Then to the great trochanter, right? Then 3 of those make the upper leg, 2.5 make the lower leg, and another half makes the foot. Or you could just say from here to here, there's 3 measurements. Good? I know you're not impressed yet. I'm just getting started, all right? How many people find it tricky to map the shoulder girdle? Yeah, right? It's difficult. Right? So this happens to be the length of your clavicle. Happens to be the height of your scapula. Happens to be the distance from the spine of the scapula to the acromion process. And actually happens to be the depth of your shoulder girdle. So from one measurement, I just finished the shoulder girdle. That's better. That's better. And there's 2 here, and there's, you get the point, right? So it means that you've got to have a system of reconstruction that's reliable. Now, the cool thing in ZBrush, you can just set your transform units to be this measurement based on any sculpt that you do. Has anyone drawn a head before, like an egg, then put a nose on it? Guess what you got? The magic measurement. You can finish the whole figure from there. Same in ZBrush. Start with everyone starts with a bowl and a face in ZBrush, don't they? But you could build in Dynamesh the entire figure after you've got this in. You guys get what I'm trying to share with you? It's going to be anatomically correct. Good? All right. Okay, so reconstruction. So what repeatable process do you guys have that gets you something anatomically correct, but also if you get in trouble? Anyone got in trouble and they don't know what's wrong with their work? Right, so you need a way of checks and balances as well. This is a live demo. Again, sculpting at actual speed. But you see that I'm going through a process. So for those of you in the Summit workshop tomorrow, I'm going to do this, going to show you how to do this in ZBrush. Cool? But this is at our workshop. You see I'm working in clay. Yes, I go both ways. Clay and digital, right? And, that's just going to go on forever. Can I scroll this thing? I guess I can. Anyway, this thing's online. You can check it out. Sculpting from Jessica, if she's going to show up any minute here. No, she's not going to show up any minute here. Jessica. Sorry, this is a lot longer than I thought it was. There she is. Right, but you see that I'm doing a process in order to recreate this, right? So we'll give you the digital version of it tomorrow. Anyway, I do finish the whole thing, but... Okay. We're proud to be sponsors of the event. If you guys, while you're here, you want to type in this code, if you want to buy any of our stuff, you get anywhere from 10 to 25% off. Enjoy. So in closing, and then I think we'll have time for questions or whatever, I think this is a very destructive comment, right? I mean, is that really empowering our future generations here? I'd like to change that to this. Cool? So there's a lot of amazing artists presenting at the summit, and it'd be awesome if they want to share their skills with you guys. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're gonna take some questions, correct? You want to take some questions?
Sure.
Does anybody have any questions here? Raise your hand. I'll meet you and give you the microphone. And for online, please send your questions to our Twitter #ZBrush Summit. We got a question here on the floor for you.
Hi, I noticed on your animal, were you working from actual autopsy?
Yes.
Because it looked like you'd scanned those and then reworked them a little bit.
That's right, because we thought if we're going to make something that you guys must trust, it's got to be anatomically correct. But you'll see that there's a deadness to cadavers. So that's why you need the art and the science. Yeah, but we're actually taking real specimens. So all of the artists here have actually had to do dissection with us, everything else. Right? Yeah, good question.
Is there another question in the audience there? No, Spagoli.
Yeah.
Thomas, you got any questions for me from online? No questions so far online.
Awesome.
So wait, we got another one? Where? Way in the back? Am I coming down the middle? Oh, there we go. I see it now. I see it. I see the arm. I'm coming. I'm on my way. You can take the mic.
Hi. This is a basic question, but I just wanted to know what type of clay do you use? Is it oil-based or?
For the figurative art stuff, for the fine art stuff, it's Roma plastilina, and for the anatomy work, it's Chavant's clay. It was actually J.D. Ed, but they have some equivalent to it now. So they're all oil-based because I'm too busy and everything would just dry out and crack. So there'd be time I got to get back to it. So, yeah.
All right. Oh, there's another one right here. Second row. I'm going to give you the microphone.
Do you find that there's other applications for the golden mean in animal anatomy? Have you discovered?
Sorry, say again?
The measurement, the magical measurement in animal anatomy.
Yes, there is. You're probably all familiar with the golden ratio, and things like that. Yeah, so there's just been less published, but yeah, there's the same sort of ratios that you can use as a system with the animals, yeah, for sure. So we're saying we should publish it. Right, got it.
I don't know, they weren't as excited when you showed the 3 measurement thing.
Well,
yeah. So any other questions out there from in the hall here? There's one right here. I see you. I'm coming. I'm going to give you the microphone, too, when I get to you.
Any thoughts on doing a ebook of just the different subjects, just to take on reference for on-site projects and stuff?
You mean like in applications and?
Just
books?
Just a book, or something that it's easily accessible, that you can go through different models and.
How many people have good question. How many people have 6 or 7 anatomy books at home? Right? So my $1 million question in my classes is like, why don't you know it? Right? And it's not that you haven't done the work. I think you guys need an operating system to make it accessible, right? Like an easy process where all of that stuff becomes, intuitive, that you can build on. I would like to do a book. I think I'd like to get my artwork out first, if that's okay, because if you've had 10 years of helping other people with their artwork, you realize that at a certain point, you're going to have to do your own. Yeah. But I would like to, very much so. And maybe with the team, we can actually produce that stuff, Yeah.
Here's another question right here, and then there, and then in the back.
Speaking of your artwork, when are you going to show it?
Okay, very true. I have about 30 pieces that I've been sculpting for the last 10 years. So if you go to andrewcawrse.com and just enter the mailing list, then we can get you access to it. All right? Yeah.
Hi. What would it be your advice about doing likeness in ZBrush?
Are you working from imagination, photography, or from photography? Okay. One of them is to make sure you know the camera distortion, right? Just in Photoshop, often now the JPEGs and things give you the focal length. That's the first thing. You've got to dial in your reference to your work environment. Yeah? And the other thing is I would stay in low res as long as possible. If you get the principal shapes working, do you know what I mean? It's so easy to get into detailed mode. Has anyone been sculpting and then they're like smoothing, and they're sculpting, they're smoothing, you know, right? So for likeness is to have multiple reference around you that is not just the one that you're maybe working over the top of, right? So you're really learning all the little nuances and everything of that person. Yeah, yeah, good question.
Another question back here. Follow the light of the phone.
Yeah, follow the light, okay.
How would you recommend going about the process of combining anatomy for a different creature?
Oh, that's where it gets fun. I mentioned before, does anyone know Carlos Huante? He's the reason I stayed at ILM for 2 more years, just to learn from this guy. I mean, he does things that shouldn't work. But I think to become, when you want to play with anatomy, right, you've got to have a solid base and an interest on everything on the planet, right? You may have not noticed, but on a lot of Carlos's creatures, they're actually Triceratops type scapulas, right? And just cool stuff like this. I'm not saying that's what he's thinking, but he's got those languages. If anyone wants to know how to push anatomy, I'll give you Carlos's exercise he gave me. You guys want it?
Yeah.
All right. How am I doing on time?
You're good. You got like plenty of time. I'm back here though now.
Okay, there you are.
I'm over
Okay,
here. I'm a quick mover.
It really helped me. He told me, he gave me a sketchbook, right, an empty sketchbook, and said at the top of it, write squash. Just the word squash. And then on the next page, stretch, pinch, right? And you end up learning the language of those things in abstract form. You just do abstract drawings that feel like they're stretched, feel like they're squashed, right? So when you start playing with all the anatomy and how things are pushing up against each other or being pulled, you'll pull off the illusion. We're all illusionists. It's just digital clay here, right? It doesn't really exist. So did that help answer your question? Yeah.
All right, back here for your next question.
So in regards to the animal anatomy line, is there anywhere, so I've been keeping up with, I saw the previews without images on the website. I'm specifically waiting for a lion. Is there anywhere that we can see teasers or things like that?
Yeah,
Is that in the works?
I'm not sure how many of you have had experience with mass production, but you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is to achieve the excellence we're showing you, it takes a long ramp-up time, which is also why I'm interested in getting from you what animals you want first, yeah? And also we're using real fur and eyes and things. I mean, not real fur, but like artificial fur. Like we're trying to go to, you know, level 11, right? But we'll also have the resin casting. So March, the horse and 3 other animals are coming out. So I'm finally very happy to be able to say that. So, and the running line is going to be beautiful because we lent from a museum a 7-foot full-size male lion. It's just, you know, you get to be face-to-face to this beautiful animal. So, and that's a big reason we're doing it. A lot of us actually are animal lovers, and I want to try to preserve these things. Yeah.
That leads right into a question from online from Thomas. Hey, Andrew, do you still do more creature-like sculpts nowadays, or is only like this real-life animals and anatomy?
No, less. Although I've had a lot of pressure to teach with some of my friends. Yeah. So usually in the classes I do, because it's still super fun, you know. So if you guys would like Carlos and I to teach again, or you know, Steve Wang, Simon Lee, Jordu Shell, these guys are all legends. Yep, let me know, and we'll do it. But yeah, personally, I'm more into fine art now and the figure. Yep.
Here's another question from online from Ricardo. Any tips you would actually want to give for stylizing an anatomy?
Yeah, I think stylization happens once you've mastered the form. Right, so in other words, if you really know what it is in reality, then you can start breaking the rules, if you like, or pushing it, or, you know. I think
foundation first.
Yeah, well, I just think be consistent. If you stylize something, then just make sure that runs through the whole piece, you know.
Perfect. Any other questions here in the house? That light's like, I can't see like this side of the house. Okay,
Yeah.
Here we go. Question.
Sorry. Yeah.
Do the people on your team that are working on animals, do they tend to have scientific backgrounds or like study biology or
No, a mixture. I mean, they're all mutts, you know. I think you just have to have a genuine passion for the animal you're picking, and you must become an expert on your own animal. You know, people have been going to breeders, to museums, right, to really, and they will. I guarantee them that they'll be the #1 expert on that animal in the world as a digital artist. Guarantee it. You know, they can talk to a veterinarian by the time they're done, for sure. Yeah, so a mixture. I mean, some people are stronger artistically and less scientifically. It all works. You just kind of work with your team with what skill set they have. So, yeah, good question.
One way in the back. I see it. I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm going to get a workout this weekend.
Hi. Do you plan on doing any less traditional animals like mollusks or insects, things like that?
Yeah, we looked at insects and snakes and all these things, but then I'm like, it's so easy to get the real thing. You know, unless we did like an awesome, I was talking to, you know, a friend of mine about doing maybe beetles this big, because that'd be cool, right? But what I'm saying, for a lot of the exotic things, they're not an endangered species, and you can just get taxidermies of them. So, you know, it's hard to beat the real thing. So, yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Oh, one more. Coming. You guys are doing this on purpose. I know it.
Speaking of endangered species, have you considered doing, like, focusing on endangered species at all?
Yeah, we have. There is obviously the challenge of that, because if we are working from dissection, there's 3 left in the world. Do you mind if we dissect one while we try to save the species? Yeah, I mean, no animals are harmed by us. These are all specimens that exist. I think it's also the demand of interest, you know, because at the end of the day, if we make them for you and they're like, wow, that's really cool that you're saving this animal I have no interest in using as a reference model. It's just a happy balance, I guess, but yeah. But the point is usually for animals like that, part of the proceeds of the sales go to that organization, right, to try to support that, yeah. For sure.
Great. Andrew Cawrse, everybody.
Thank you.